Hello, this is Juliana to Aviva Escrow. Welcome to my video presentation of another threat to escrow that can have severe consequences to a transaction: document fraud. This fraud is perpetuated by the fraudster, and this could be anyone, anywhere, committing the crime at any time. First, let's review some basics. What is the main function of escrow? The escrow holder, or the settlement agent, or the stakeholder, we are the impartial, neutral third party with whom funds and documents must be deposited and held in trust until mutually agreed upon conditions have been met. What are our responsibilities? We handle the receipt in of funds to close, and we send out the proceeds of the sale. The funds can be cash in the form of personal checks or wire, or financial instruments like a seller carryback note. We handle the transfer of documents and data in the file. These documents can be transferred by original paper document or sending a document electronically. So the term, when you go into escrow, and when it is used here, applies to this whole process, the practices, policies, procedures that make up the whole settlement process. Now let's talk about fraud. There are a few categories of fraud, and be sure you check out my other threats to escrow videos. Wire fraud is the most worrisome these last years, and this is why it was the first of the series that I did on fraud. Email fraud is the most prevalent. These emails that purported to come from someone you know asking you to open an attachment. Well, don't do it unless you verify. Check fraud is the most public. The amounts may not be large, but writing a check to buy something and having it bounce happens all the time, and it is considered fraud. Personal identity fraud is the most harmful because this is someone pretending to be you and taking out credit cards and doing harmful things to others. And now I am going to talk about document fraud. This is fraud on a transactional basis as a response to specific issues. This is fraud committed on the documents that are handed to escrow. Don't be fooled that only those masked, hooded crooks sitting in an underground basement hunched over a computer can perpetuate fraud. Anyone can commit fraud if they have the incentive. Document fraud, especially, can be perpetuated by all sorts of everyday people who could be very close to the transaction. You do not need specific skills or knowledge, just a determination to commit. Back in the days leading to the economic collapse in 2007, we heard of many stories of document fraud with fake loan applications and income statements given to lenders to approve a loan that ultimately could not be paid by the borrowers. Falsifying information is fraud. Faking someone's signature is fraud. As a settlement agent, almost all documents and money passes through us. If we don't keep up our attention and catch potential fraud in our transactions, we will be bringing down a world of trouble on ourselves, the lenders, the title companies, and our clients. So here is a story from the escrow trenches. This is not an actual fraud case, but it could have been. And when intuition says something did not look right, we were placed on high alert. Here's the background on our story. This is a transaction in which a buyer was buying a property while in the middle of a divorce. Because he was not fully divorced, California's community property law required that his soon-to-be ex-wife sign a quitclaim deed. This quitclaim deed was prepared by escrow and given to the wife through her attorney. As you can imagine, the wife refused to sign. She did not want to give up any of her rights while she was in the middle of a contentious divorce. Unfortunately, the transaction had to go forward, and the title company needed that deed, And the buyer's lender also needed a copy to show that the buyer would own the property all by himself and no ex-spouse would have a future claim. The whole transaction came to a stop right then until the escrow and parties struggled to fulfill this condition. The insuring title company agreed to help with a solution that would enable us to go forward. The buyer and the lender would sign an agreement that they were aware there would be no quitclaim deed, and the title company would not provide insurance coverage against any future claims that the ex-spouse might have. A little bit about the lender in this transaction. It was one of the largest national lenders. Communications with them took place through a portal where everything they needed or wanted could be uploaded or downloaded. There were no emails, no phone calls with live people. The buyer had a loan broker working diligently to find ways to resolve the issue. He assured us that the lender removed the condition that a quitclaim deed was going to be required. But unfortunately, this was not reflected on the portal, so we had no assurances that this was really the case. We then asked the loan broker to get the lender's signature approval on the title agreement as the alternate solution and put it up on the portal so that we could download it. There was no response from the lender through the portal. Frustrated, the loan broker then asked, "Give me a copy of the quitclaim deed. I'll get it signed." Really? After conversations with the attorney, the escrow officer felt it was very doubtful. But if the loan broker could convince the attorney and the spouse, so much the better. We gave him the deed. A day later, the loan broker came back to us and asked, "Do you have any document that has the spouse's signature?" We didn't have anything, but why would he ask for something like that? This became a huge red flag that something untoward was contemplated. It was a defining moment. All of a sudden, the escrow weather antennas all perked up. When you have been in this business long enough, you see and hear all sorts of attempts at fraud. We already knew the spouse was not going to sign. How was the loan broker going to convince her? Why did he need a copy of something she signed? Was he planning on getting a fake signature and a fake notary on this quitclaim deed? This is when we realized that we had to hold firm on the sanctity of all the documents that we received. We had some fraud prevention choices, so we advised the loan broker we would accept the documents only under the following conditions. The lender agrees to the title agreement and puts the signed document on their portal so that we can download it from them directly. Or if the spouse could be convinced to sign, then we would send our own notary to the spouse and get the deed signed and notarized. We would not accept any document that was not submitted to us directly from the lender or signed in front of a notary that we could trust. We will never know what desperate measures the loan broker was planning, as the transaction canceled because of this issue. But the conversations with the loan broker were very worrisome and pointed to a potential for fraud being committed. The escrow officer listened to her intuition and demanded to be in control of the paperwork. No escrow company should ever allow themselves to be a part of any attempt to defraud anyone, much less a national lender. Lose our license, lose our reputation, blacklisted by the lender, dragged down by years of lawsuits. This could all happen if we were derelict in our responsibilities. Thankfully, this was a story of potential document fraud that did not materialize. However, it gives insight on what could have happened and what we face on a day-to-day basis. For all our concerns and efforts, there was a good ending to this particular story. The seller, who was patient and gave the buyer additional time to resolve his issues, did sell the property again to someone else at a price that was $100,000 more than the original price. The buyer learned a valuable lesson. The purchase of a new home had to wait until his divorce was finalized. All's well that ends well. This is Juliana too, and thank you for listening to our concerns and the threats that could fall on escrow. Check out all our threats to escrow videos on my juliana2.com website, or go to YouTube and our Think Escrow channel, where we have many, many more educational videos on the process of escrow. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, we have the answers.